The HvH community has had so many different phases and controversies over the years. I debated naming this video the Cheating Iceberg instead, since a lot that I'm going to talk about isn't really HvH related, but cheating related or cheater drama related. But I went with HvH Iceberg anyway, since the cheating and HvH communities are pretty closely intertwined, so I don't think it really matters. These days, most people consider them the same thing. With all that said, welcome to the HvH Iceberg. Generic HvH lingo. Something right away that you notice when it comes to the HvH scene is just how many overused buzzwords there are. Most people start repeating them just because they see other people saying them, and they want to fit in and act like they've been using those terms for years, even though they just learned them 5 minutes ago. The most common one is, of course, one, which just means killing someone with one bullet. People always type one no matter what, because it's an easy way to make someone mad. Then NN, which means no name, which is another way of saying nobody knows who you are and you're random and you don't matter. If you get called a no name, don't feel bad. Only no names still call other people no names in 2025. Then we have UID, which means your Skeet user ID. Usually this is asked so the other person can ego you and make fun of you for having a high UID or not even having one. Most people are terrified to say their UID, which usually just means their UID is really high, or they'll lie about their UID being lower than what it really is. A lot of people lie about old banned Skeet accounts being theirs, which is pretty sad and honestly stolen valor. Then we have the German terms like HDF, which is how to die fresse or shut your mouth. And we can't forget typing H repeatedly to show that you're laughing, because typing LOL or haha is too hard apparently. You have to commit to the cringe German LARP. There's sit dog or sit low dog, which these days isn't an insult to some people that unironically call themselves puppy girls. There's also the actual HvH terms, like BAME, which just means body aim, which used to be frowned upon, but everyone just stopped caring. Or hitting P, which means hitting perfect and not missing, although no one has used that term in years. Or P-lister, which means someone using their player list to prioritize someone or whatever. There's more, but those are the most notable ones. If you want to combine multiple of them into one epic insult, just say, "One sit no name dog." Cya Media. Whenever people won an HvH or got a decent clip, they'd often say some variation of Cya Media, or enjoy media no name. People would always screenshot the scoreboard and post their epic media on cheat forums like Aimware or Skeet or even Zeus and interwebs when they were around. This was especially done when they went against someone known or a Skeet user. They'd relish the opportunity of getting media against the big namer, even if that person wasn't good or anything. It didn't really matter. It's all about the clout. People would also post their media on YouTube and make cringe HvH compilations, usually with tryhard editing and some German rap song or some mainstream hip-hop song that is 10 years old. So with everyone trying to get media, this led to people aliasing, which means when someone uses random undercover names instead of their actual alias. So no one could media or screenshot them losing, and they could just lie and pretend to be someone else. This was very common in the last few years of CSGO. Basically, everyone was using some cryptic, edgy nonsense username since nobody wanted to get mediaed. Almost no one actually used their name, even though the majority of the time, no one knew who they were to begin with. Everyone was so insecure and wanted to protect their fragile ego and non-existent reputation. This also led to people leaving games early, before the scoreboard popped up at the end, and there's actually a term for this, called anti-media. So any HvHer who wanted to screenshot the scoreboard at the end would get cucked out of their media. Big namer. Big namer is the opposite of no name, so it just means someone who people know, for better or worse. Being a big namer doesn't mean you're good or a skilled player, which some people tend to assume. It just means people know who you are. Maybe you play HvH 24/7, or maybe you're toxic and you trash talk everyone, or you're a Lua dev, or you upload YouTube videos that get decent views, or you're so bad that people make memes about you like Gucci Million. A lot of HvHers think they're big namers when really they aren't. Of course, it's subjective and depends on region, but most self-proclaimed big namers are just randoms that like 20 people know. Most real big namers are big names for the wrong reasons, like being a lolcow or embarrassingly bad or humiliating themselves for a Skeet invite. Despite how known someone may be, you'll always have that person who still wants to ego you. A lot of people just pretend to not know who someone is in some vain attempt to humble them and not to feed their ego, or because they think it makes them look cool if they don't know you, or it makes people think they're not terminally online. If you're watching this, you've probably done this to someone at some point. Admit it. Obnoxious Spotlight titles. For anyone who doesn't know, Spotlight is the name of the media section on GameSense. It's where Skeet users can post their media and jerk themselves off with how amazing and talented they are. Of course, no one actually cares or is actually impressed by it, and you're not gaining any respect because your cheat beats someone else's cheat in a video game. Over the years, the titles for Spotlight threads started becoming more and more ridiculous. You had titles like X user arrested by ICE and deported to Brazil, or Y user demolished and dogwalked by superior HvH legend. Yeah, those are probably some of the more normal ones. CSGO Resolver. Back around 2017, DDoSing was a big thing in matchmaking in HvH servers. DDoSing, which means distributed denial of service. Why bother trying when you can just hit the person offline instead? A lot of HvHers' IPs were in database leaks from either HvH servers or Aimware breaches, or maybe someone was dumb enough to click an IP grabber link. There were a lot of ways to get someone's IP right off the bat. Anyway, CSGO Resolver was a site that grabbed people's IPs, and then you could boot them off. Sometimes people would hit off the entire enemy team. Why you could do this for a free easy win, especially against cheaters on the enemy team, it wasn't done just for that. It was mostly done to give people cooldowns. So they DDoS them so they weren't able to reconnect, and then they get either a 30-minute or 7-day cooldown. Most people aren't really computer literate to know they can just unplug their router to get a new IP, or if they had a static IP, that wasn't even an option. Even though it's pretty rare for DDoSing to happen in 2025, some people still do it. So avoid clicking any links that someone sends or has on their profile. By the way, if you're caught doing this, Steam support gets really angry if they catch you DDoSing people, and I've seen them community ban an account permanently for doing it. Server crashing. Over the last decade, there have been a lot of different ways to crash a server. The purpose of server crashing was so the demo would get corrupted, and then it wouldn't be sent to Overwatch. You'd crash the server at the very end, right after you got the win and XP, and then the server would go right down after. Almost every year, a new method was found, which meant everyone was going to start spinning and raging and not get banned. Usually the method would be available for months, and would only get patched once Aimware or some big cheat would add it in. Server crashing is still a thing in 2025, and it's worked since the beginning of CS2's release. It's pretty sad that it still hasn't been fixed, but considering the infinite team kill exploit also hasn't been fixed, it's no surprise. Fun fact, back in CSGO, some people would rage and server crash on their alt accounts, and if they went against any cheaters on their rich mains who raged back, they'd pretend to crash the server, but then didn't crash, so the cheaters who raged on their mains would get banned, even if their own accounts got banned as well. It was worth it. Selly Configs. Back when Selly GG existed, every HvHer and their mom had a Selly, where they'd sell their config that they probably bought themselves or made in 5 minutes. This was super popular in 2017, when HvH's popularity was at its peak, which meant a lot of new players were getting into HvH and had no clue what half the features did or how to make a good config. This basically became some people's jobs. They would market their Selly link constantly and try to get as much shekels as possible. A common insult was, "Nice config, you sell?" Thankfully, this fad died around 2018, and then was replaced with selling Luas. EZFrags. EZFrags was a free public cheat that would get you VAC banned after an hour of using it. Then, a so-called private version was released, which was a scam since it didn't exist. EZFrags is one of the worst cheats ever, and hasn't been around for years. But that doesn't stop the meme from still being beaten to death. Even today, people still use the EZFrags meme and recommend it to new cheaters. PeterHook. Similar to EZFrags, another meme cheat, except this cheat never existed. And it's hard to say if this post is a joke or not. It started from an image made by Kitten Popo, which showed a ridiculous Family Guy themed menu, which still probably looks better than half the menus you see today. It's another meme cheat that's recommended to newcomers who don't know how Google works. Kid on the news playing HvH. In 2019, there was a news video of a kid saving his friend from unaliving himself. During the news video, the kid was playing CSGO, but people noticed his gameplay looked a little odd. He injected Aimware and went on aimbots while the news team recorded him. During the gameplay, he stared at his monitor very intensely, as if he actually needed to concentrate while spinning against harmless bots. Well, the video went viral in the cheating community, which led the kid actually getting invited to Skeet, which, being no stranger to kids, gave him an invite, where he registered as Flappy Fish. May God help anyone who disrespects Flappy Fish. Supremacy. Supremacy was a cheat that was made by a staff member for interwebs. Long story short, it was pasted from Skeet dumps and cracked by Esoteric literally the day it was released. Huge embarrassment for interweb staff who all vouched for it and shilled for it and hyped it up for months. EZE. EZE was a notorious scammer who, despite being exposed as a scammer so many times, still somehow always ended up getting more and more victims to scam. EZE would pretend to sell invites for multiple HvH cheats, like Skeet, Nemesis, and Fatality. He also had his own cheat, which he called Skeet by EZE, which a lot of people assumed was either good as Skeet or Skeet itself. Of course, neither was true, and it was a really bad cheat that was most definitely pasted. He later renamed the cheat to EZE Pub, which was equally terrible. He probably scammed tens of thousands of dollars from morons who tried buying a Skeet invite. There were actually rare times where he would sell someone an invite and not scam them, but that was maybe 1 person out of 10 people. Sharklaser. Sharklaser used to be known as the master of finding exploits, and also the master of crying on Reddit and begging Valve to patch fake angles. Sharklaser would always find new ways to crash servers, and keep them for himself and his friends, so they'd go around constantly crashing or lagging servers. If you raged back, you could actually beat them easily, since they were all really bad HvHers, but they'd always rage crash the server as soon as they started losing, so you never could actually win against them. Or they would just lag the server until you eventually lost because you weren't able to plant the bomb if you were on T side. Aimware on ESEA. There was a time when Aimware worked on ESEA. People used to always go on how good ESEA's anti-cheat was, and the truth is, at best, it was okay. Majority of the time, it was pretty bad or mining Bitcoin. You could actually use Aimware and full-on rage and even spin on ESEA. Other cheats like Fanta also worked on ESEA for a while. Serge meeting endfawr. Serge was the coder and owner of Fanta, the once popular CSGO cheat that apparently still exists for other games. endfawr was a 10-year-old girl who was cheating on CSGO and got into Fanta. Well, once upon a time ago, Serge decided to meet up with her multiple times. Serge claimed nothing explicit happened, and that they just met as friends. As if a grown man meeting a 13-year-old girl is normal. Keep in mind Serge was in his 20s. If Chris Hansen or Gideon did their show around this time, I have no doubt Serge would have been in an episode. Dandalf. Dandalf, or Dan B, is a Valve employee and an actual dev for Counter-Strike. He's one of the few devs that actually plays the game, and he plays pretty regularly. Back in 2022, I exposed him for manually banning every supposed cheater he and his friends went against. And after that video went out, 2 weeks later, he opted out on Steam ID, and his friends also privated their CSGO stats, so I wasn't able to keep tracking their games anymore. Then a few months later, it was found out that Dandalf was joining Flying Scoutsman servers and manually banning the people who were XP boosting. Well, what people don't know is, ever since I exposed him, he's had an issue with me. And for a while, he would ban every account I logged into. During the first couple months of CS2's release, back when everyone was raging and using Magic Bullet and rapid firing everyone and not getting banned, I'd somehow always get banned on every account I cheated on, no matter what I did. Every account I played CS2 on, it would get banned a few hours later. I thought maybe my hardware ID was banned, so I changed my hardware ID, and it still kept happening. I couldn't tell if this was automatically being done or if Dandalf himself was just manually banning every account. I tested it by logging into an account and opening CS but not cheating on it to see if that account would get banned, and it still got banned. This went on for about a month. Then it stopped and hasn't happened since. He even banned an account that I only use an external on. I never told people this or made a video about it because no one would believe me and people would think I'm just lying for clout, but it's the truth. I also think another reason he focused on me out of the thousands of cheaters cheating on CS2 was because my videos were getting a lot of views at the time. Dirty Dan still plays regularly, even with his hidden Leadify page. I recommend if you ever go against him to either dodge or just kill switch your cheat and play legit. He has no problem manual banning you the second he thinks you're cheating. Kubrick. A lot of people know Kubrick as just a Skeet moderator who has transitioned now and goes by demo user or Ali, but what people don't know is his controversial past. Kubrick was involved in a lot of shady and immoral stuff, ranging from grooming to a lot of things that can't be said on YouTube. He was always just a really weird and strange person, from asking people for thigh pictures or nudes, to convincing people into taking the pink pill or being his e-kin in exchange for Skeet invite. xaNe. Speaking of people with controversial pasts, of course we have to talk about xaNe. xaNe is arguably the most known and infamous HvHer in the entire cheating scene. Him trash-talking everyone and server-siding is only the tip of the iceberg. He did so much illegal stuff that it'd take a while to list all of it. He's still somewhat around, and was even cheating in CS2 as recently as a year ago, but he stopped being terminally online a long time ago. xaNe had so many fanboys and people copying him and his language. He had so many copying his behavior, copying his groups, copying his alias even. He's at least partially responsible for how toxic and cancer the HvH community became. No matter how much time passes, you can still be sure he's still holding the watermelon. Bought Skeet accounts. So we all know Wish sells invites. That's not exactly breaking news, but people don't really know the extent of how many invites he sold. Most accounts that are past 10,000 UID bought their invites. The vast majority of them were not from giveaways or being invited by a friend. Since 2021, giveaways are extremely rare. And yeah, Wish did some giveaways on Twitter for a while, but that's still the vast minority. I would say at least 90% of Skeet users that registered from 2021 to today paid for an invite. So most people with a 5-digit UID, you can safely assume they probably bought their invite and you can make fun of them for that. Of course they'll never admit it, but deep in their heart, they know. The Skeet Pipeline. Skeet used to be called Trap Hack. Well, not trap, but the other T word. And there's a reason for that. Back when Skeet was actually hard to get and only had a few hundred users, it was basically impossible to get an invite. You couldn't buy one. You couldn't just make friends with people, since no one had it and everyone was trying to get it themselves. There was no way to stand out and get one unless you just got really lucky or you were good friends with a Skeet user who happened to get an invite and didn't have someone else to give it to. With everyone being extremely desperate for Skeet, a lot of people resorted to a pretty degenerate way to get an invite, and it was either becoming a femboy or becoming a trans girl, which really meant just shaving your legs and wearing thigh highs, and that's it. You can still have a beard and look like a normal dude. All that matters was having shaved legs and owning a pair of thigh highs and maybe a skirt. Kubrick was really into femboys, and he was a really big chaser and gooner. So the key to getting a Skeet invite was just getting Kubrick to goon over you. So people would LARP or even become femboys or troons just to get an invite to video game cheat. Once they got the invite, they would continue the shtick, probably because they enjoyed the attention it got them, and they would get other chasers as well. There's a reason a lot of guys take the pink pill, and it's because they get more attention and validation than if they were just a normal straight dude. So it started out as a LARP and just a way to get an invite, but then it became a reality. This is why Skeet users had the lowest testosterone out of all the cheats. In 2017, most Skeet users were femboys and had female names. But ever since Wish took over and started selling invites to everyone, and back in 2018, when there was 2 big invite waves back to back, Skeet stopped being the girl hack and just became the same as the rest of the cheats. csgohacks. This subreddit is a dump and always has been since its creation. It's on Reddit, so by default, you know it's gonna be a steaming pile of dog shit. It's just a place where people ask stupid questions that they could have just searched for instead, or people asking for some face it private cheat, as if anyone is just gonna trust some random person on Reddit to invite to their super exclusive face it cheat, or it's just people begging for a Skeet or Fatality invite. The latter being more common, which is amazing since Fatality has over 60,000 members, and yet somehow there's still people struggling to get an invite. Then you have the not so uncommon legit players who ends up on the subreddit and they call everyone losers and virgins for cheating in a video game. As if posting on Reddit and having a Reddit account isn't more embarrassing than cheating in a video game. My god, MyGot was one of the first sort of trolling groups that ever existed on the internet, responsible for terms like RFIK and famous for the MyGot cakes. MyGot was a group of people who existed during a different time, long before terms like ragebait or other brainrot buzzwords existed. Modern-day comm groups would make groups like MyGot and even Lizard Squad seem like angels. Comm groups like 764 or Order of 9 Angles who do more malicious stuff than simply griefing someone in a video game or even doxing someone. There's always been nihilistic comm groups that like to spread chaos, except now, instead of cheating in a video game or DDoSing PlayStation, they'll convince someone into unaliving themselves or doing a school pew-pew. The internet has changed a lot in the last 20 years. Now, people aren't surprised when someone is mean or bad faith troll. Anyway, MyGot would cheat and grief in games, usually Counter-Strike, and their goal was just to make people mad. Sometimes all they did was just spam the N-word or other racist or derogatory words. I guess 20 years ago, it was kinda edgy. But now, in 2025, when Twitter is basically 4chan, it doesn't mean anything. No one is offended by stuff like that anymore, except blue-haired feminists. Some MyGot members were around during the early days of CSGO, usually raging with Aimware, but in 2015, they all disappeared. A lot of people still use the MyGot tag afterwards, but it was just LARPers and people fanboying MyGot. Team Gamer Food. Unlike MyGot that was already on its last legs when CSGO came out, Team Gamer Food was around for a few years from around 2014 to 2016. Team Gamer Food had their own site and supposed cheat, where they'd spam and advertise in chat. Bypass Overwatch bans with Team Gamer Food. Don't eat like a noob, buy gamer food. The cheat was free, so anyone could download it from their site. Of course, the cheat wasn't real and was just a rat. If you were dumb enough to download a cheat from a group like this, then God bless you. Team Gamer Food is mostly known for the site they made called Fodder Fap Me, which, as you guessed, leads to the infamous Chance Fap video from Fodder. I want to add a small correction to the video made about Fodder a couple months ago by Jesus. Team Gamer Food did not catfish Fodder. It was actually Alice Allen, who catfished Fodder and got him excited enough to send the video. Then, Alice sent the video to Team Gamer Food, and then they made the site and spammed it everywhere. Some notable members from Team Gamer Food were James Conrad and A5, who was also in MyGot. James Conrad was some British guy who made a lot of iconic meme videos in 2014 and 2015, and actually got pretty decent views. Most of his videos are him griefing people, usually streamers. A5 was another known member, but ironically, he fell down the same trap that Fodder fell for. He ended up ERPing with Alice Allen, and then Alice leaked their logs, and he was so embarrassed that he disappeared from the internet. Memeware. Memeware was one of the many sites created back then, which used the name that everyone was calling Aimware. Memeware was actually a real cheat at one point, but it was a paste and it didn't last long. There were other sites like You Will Anime or CSGO Anime, which made people upset since a lot of CSGO players really hated people with anime avatars. Anime avatars were synonymous with cheaters, and most normie CSGO players already hated anime with a burning passion. Mekelek. Mekelek was an Indian guy who used to shill and promote the site CSGO Boost or CSGO Boosters. There are so many videos of him on YouTube promoting it or just promoting cheats. Really, Mekelek is just a guy off Fiverr who was paid to make these videos. There was an actual cheater that went by Mekelek who was affiliated with CSGO Boost and who was a mod for interwebs, but he's not the Indian guy. CSGO Boost was an actual site, but most of the time, they just take your money and scam you. Pretty mean, but you kinda deserve it for paying for a boost. Repeated W's as Steam name. There used to be a trend where so many cheaters would make their Steam name 20 capital W's. If you're wondering why, there are two reasons. One is because they saw other people do it, and second is because supposedly it would crash some garbage pastes that have broken name ESP, which is pretty sad and funny if your cheat crashes from someone having a long username. There were actually some ways to crash Aimware pastes with certain special characters. GoTV Viewbotting. We used to have a feature called GoTV. It would show random matches across the ranks, ranging from global to silver. Sometimes the matches were random, but often they were matches that had viewers watching them. Someone streaming counted as viewers in-game, so here you could see which games were being played that had the most viewers, and you could join GoTV to watch the match for yourself. Well, back in 2020, there was a group of cheaters that viewbotted their games, so they'd always be at the top of the GoTV list. Sometimes they'd have 2,000 viewers, sometimes they'd have 10,000 viewers. It really just depended on how hard they wanted to viewbot, but this led to real people seeing their games on GoTV and seeing how blatantly they were cheating, which got a lot of angry comments on their profiles, which was the goal. The main person who was always viewbotting was someone who was impersonating Kali, the pro that got backbanned all those years ago. At one point, they somehow managed to bot over 1 million viewers, which is interesting considering not even the major final had that many viewers. Cash App Mikey. Mikey was a semi-rage cheater who spent years cheating in matchmaking and losing every game. Despite how many years he's been around, he was always bad and never had money, so he ended up doing some questionable things for money. The worst one is literally eating his own fecal matter, which was all recorded in a Discord call. There's a video of this, and it's very gross, and I've always avoided watching it because I value my eyes. He did that for like $200 by the way, which earned him the name Cash App Mikey. Dizzent. The last one is dark in a fitting end. Dizzent was a known German HvHer who unfortunately passed. Even though there's a lot of hate in the HvH community, a lot of people often forget there's a real person behind the screen, with feelings and emotions and circumstances that might not be the best. If you spend most of your day online or playing games, you're most likely not that happy or fulfilled in real life, and your mental health is probably not doing that well. Some other HvHers or cheaters who also unalived themselves or died in some tragic way were Anu, Amzi, Swift, and Dylan. Who knows how many more have died that we don't know about. Rest in peace. And that's the end of the iceberg. I didn't really mention anything that's happened in the last 3 years since it's too recent, or I already went over it in another video. I tried to avoid talking about stuff that I've already made videos over, so that's probably why there's stuff missing that you think should have been included. If you're upset that so-and-so wasn't talked about or mentioned, that's probably because there wasn't anything to say. Sure, there's a lot of old HvHers I could have mentioned, like Coin, Broly, Reps, Sim, Kali, Strafola, and so on, but just being known doesn't mean there's some interesting iceberg lore to talk about. Thanks for watching.